or an old washing machine would be a good description of it. And in the center of this washing machine, if you will, there's a cloverleaf design of iron. And around this iron, George, you're going to have like magnets wrapped in just thousands of miles of copper wire. Now, there's an old handle, like they used to crank the old trucks and cars in the 1920s.
Right.
There's a handle on top of this, and this is a circular. You would start it and rotate it like a watch face. You would roll this thing and it would circle. Now, Ed said as you put these magnets into motion, he said what happens is the North and the South Pole magnets start chasing each other, and once they start chasing each other, they never stop. Now, he would have a little copper wire there. If he wanted to break the charge here, the connection, that's the only way he said you can stop it. Now, when he was talking about this machine, George, and there's parts of this machine that are missing. No one knows exactly what's happened over the years, but after he died, there was quite a bit of robbery that went on there, and they believe that a lot of the parts were missing, or they don't know exactly what happened, but this machine, he said, you could put this in the rocket, in the head of a rocket. He said you could fly to Pluto and have breakfast, come back to the Earth that night and have dinner, and you would have more energy than you used because of the magnetic energy.
Now, where was this machine physically located there?
Okay, physically, now, Ed was living in a tower there. There's 240 tons of coral block stone. It looks like a square, if you will, and the top was his living quarters, and below it was his tool room. So this would have been right below where he actually lived. There would have been a coral block floor in between, like a two-story apartment, if you will. And, George, the last time I was there, I was thinking, and I don't know why it didn't dawn on me, but I looked up at the roof. The roof is flat now on this two-story apartment, if you can imagine it. And I thought, well, how did he put the blocks up there, so that they don't fall on your head?
Right.
And I'm not a...
He had a system.
Yeah, I'm not a contractor, but I got to thinking, now, wait a minute. There's no steel rod reinforcements up there, like you would pour concrete. It's just blocks.
Now, the tripod that we have seen, the big picture of the tripod with Ed there,
right,
hoisting stuff, do you think that was used merely for balance and positioning once he did whatever he did to move the blocks?
Yeah, I think it's certainly possible that he used it for that method. There's a lot of theories, of course, that now the photographs that you see of Ed working is one of the curious things to me because, George, as we talked last time, and this is verified by the people who knew him, he had a sixth sense. When you tried to sneak up on him working, he would always stop. And if he should be working and he was going to allow you to come up, he would go over and cover his tools before he would allow you to approach.
Right.
Okay?
See, I think this tripod picture is a diversion.
Well, yes, that is. I think you're right, because now he had an old box Brownie camera with a self-timer on it, okay? He took all his own photographs. That means that if he took these photographs, he took them himself, or if he allowed someone to take these photographs, and he's so secretive, why would he allow someone to photograph him when he was working if he didn't want this to be seen? So your idea on it's a diversion, then see, later on people would look at the photograph, and there was a lot of people who were fooled by this, and they'd say, well, my God, you can see him there in the photograph. He's working with a hoist and chain. He just did it with a pulley. Yeah,
exactly, without thinking about the weight and everything else that goes behind it.
Right, and his hoist was only for 10 tons, and his heaviest stone weighed 30. So where's the math?
So let's assume for a moment, Joe, that his magnetic machine is in full motion. I wonder if the fact that it was in there by the apartment, if it just generated some kind of a field around the entire area where everything became lighter than light, for example. So it really didn't matter if this machine had to be above a block or wherever it might be. Maybe he made the entire region that way.
Yes, and when you say made the entire region that way, that's entirely plausible, because if you're already working with a point that, like we talked about before with the harmonic resonance or the harmonic grid there, you've already got a point that's got it there. So if you use something to enhance that point, then you can do the whole area. Like you say, you don't have to worry about one particular section because you just unify the whole section of the grid there.
Didn't he wear iron shoes or something like that?
Yes. George, and this is, I told you when I was first studying this thing, I stopped by an old gas station there to ask some questions, and the gas station, the sign up over the station said J.T. Bullard. And I was like, this can't be. This was a station in 1930. Mr. Bullard actually pulled up, and we began talking, and this is where I got a lot of the information, for my story.
No relation, huh?
No, well, we're all related similarly, because we all came from Ireland, Scotland, Britain, and all those places.
Okay.
But I had a lady named Sharon Bullard who emailed me. We talked last time about we'd love to dig up some people who were actually children when they watched these stones,
right,
as we talked about being floated. Well, she said, my father-in-law was Bill Bullard. He was one of the sons or one of the children who was there and saw the stones being floated. Now, he reported that Ed wore iron soles on his shoes. And I said, why? And she said, well, they kept him from floating. In our last interview, you said, I can't believe he didn't float off from the whole place.
Right.
And now she said, well, he actually went to the shoemaker and had them put, they took car bumpers, believe it or not, from the junkyard and told the shoemaker to put iron soles on his shoes because he was tired of wearing the leather soles out. But she said there was a reason for it in that by wearing these iron soles, he was able to work in the area without floating away.
Now, that is fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.
But you see, George, he's so clever. When he goes to the shoemaker, he says, "Oh, I'm tired of wearing out my leather shoes."
Exactly. Yeah, he can't tell him why he wants them.
Right.
Okay, so he makes Coral Castle in Florida City, but then he decides he's going to move it. Was it because of the beating?
Yes.
Okay.
The area had become a little bit congested. Ed was the kind of person, he totally wanted his privacy. And but now also there's theories, and Ray Stoner mentions it in his book, The Enigma of Coral Castle, that Ed had made a surveying error in Florida City. And George, one thing I don't know if we talked about this last time, but these tsunamis or anytime you have an earthquake, we're discovering that the shifting or the vibrating of the earth can change these harmonic grids of these resonance. And the idea was that the source of power there, the grid, was fading, and Ed had made a mistake, and he should have been 10 miles over in Homestead. So he it's not that he made up the story about him leaving because of the thugs. He used that, but there's also a theory that says stronger grid point in Homestead. So he calls up a friend of his, brings over a Mack truck. And now this is one of the things that people used to ask me about. Said, well, how in the world can you carry a 30-ton stone on a truck and trailer without having a blowout? Because Ed is going to move Coral Castle from Florida City to Homestead, 10 miles away, and he trucks each stone one by one down Key West Highway to Homestead. Well, I have found out now that they were using an old Mack truck, and these tires actually were solid rubber. And that's why they didn't have blowups.
Popped. Okay. And how did he get the blocks of stone on the truck?
Well, that's the big question. He actually hired a man to help him. This was the first time he ever asked for help in his life. Now, he told the man pulled up there and said, well, what do you want me to do? And Ed said, well, we're going to move this whole castle, 1,100 tons, 3 million pounds of stone. And, of course, the guy was kind of like, what? And Ed said, look, pull up here to this stone, and please go around to the back of the castle, come back in about an hour, and I'll have the truck loaded for the first load. Well, the man waited and waited, and then he remembered that he'd forgotten his lunch pail. So he thought, well, I'll have an excuse, and I'll kind of sneak back up and see what Ed's doing. Well, when he low-crawled around the corner, kind of like an alligator, well, when he came back up, Ed was standing there waiting on him, and the truck was loaded.
Already ready to go.
Already ready to go.
Amazing. So he uses some technique. He moves the blocks onto the truck. Nobody can figure out what's going on. He heads for Homestead, right?
Right.
Now,
right.
Did he live at Coral Castle?
Oh yes. He lived on the grounds the whole time.
Did he have running water? Did he have electricity?
No. Now, that's an interesting point and something we didn't really talk about that much last time. Now, Remember, he's on a 4,000 feet down bedrock. Now, George, this is amazing. He goes